Alright guys, I'm picking up where we left off. We have a turret on our test world that can turn and play a firing animation when you push the fire button. However, nothing is shooting out, so we need to make something that can shoot out of the barrel and hit something. Oh yeah, I forgot I can click on things and break them. Okay, so here we go. First thing you're going to need to do is go to pixel art and start a new pixel art. You can choose pretty much any size you'd like. 32 by 32 is probably best just for a projectile. And you're going to want to draw yourself some type of a bullet. I'm going to draw a really simple one here to give you guys an idea of how this should work. So there's a bullet, and I want to give this bullet a little bit of an animation, so I'm going to give this bullet a couple of wings. Let's do that. Make it simple enough that I can spin it without it being crazy. You know what? I'm going to do it like that. Let's do it like that. Okay. Okay. Let's see, does that work? 1, 2, it's got to go like that. 1, 2, this one's got 4, so it's got to be like that. There we go. 1 passed. Okay. So I've got my simple bullet here. I'm going to add a frame. I'll copy this one. So now I have 1 frame, and I'm going to need 2 frames. And 2. Oops. And I might have gotten it out of order as well, but 1, 2, 3. That's okay. Alright. So I've got 2 frames here. Let's see, what does it look like? Kind of like it's spinning. It's not perfect, but hey, it has some type of little animation in there. If I wanted to make it better, I could add a little bit more, but I have this animation. And I'm going to download this. File, download. I want to download all of the frames. And let's show it in the folder. I'm going to rename this. What is going on? For whatever reason, it's liking to double click. Okay, so projectile 0. And rename this one to projectile. Oops. Rename this one to projectile 1. Okay, so I have these 2. I'm going to copy them, and I need to put them into my game now. There's a pretty cool trick I can show you guys about how to get these pictures loaded in. You can come to your sprites folder, make a new folder. This thing is starting to get annoying. It's just double clicking for me, and I don't want it to double click. Okay, so the folder I'm going to call is, I don't know, Eversole, no, online bullet, we'll call it online projectile. Okay. Now I want to put those pictures into my online projectile folder, and if you noticed, what I did is I did copy. So now I need to get into this folder. If you right click it, you can go open in File Manager, and it opens up the folder for you so you don't have to, you know, chase it down. So there we go. I'm going to paste my 2 pictures in there, and now I have my new projectile here. Alright, so we drew a projectile. Let's add it into the game. So you need to create a new scene, a custom node, and we're going to do a sprite. I'm going to call this sprite projectile, and I'm also going to save this. So Control S, and I'm saving it in my scenes folder under online tutorial, and I'm going to save it as the projectile scene. Alright, now this is going to need an animation player, so create an animation player for this, and we're going to put in our 2 animations here. So I have 2, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drag and drop my first picture so I can see my projectile. There it is. Perfect. And I need an animation, so I'm going to click on animation here. I'm selected on sprite, click on animation, do new, and I'm going to call this flying, like it's flying through the air. I only have 2 frames, so down here in the bottom right, I'm going to set how long my animation is going to last. I have 2 frames, so I'm doing 0.2 seconds. And then down here in the bottom right, this is where you can zoom in and out on your player, your animation player. So 0.2 seconds. For the first frame, I've clicked right here. You can see this little blue line. Click on 0 and it moves the blue line. Now it's at the very beginning. My snap is set to 0.0 or 0.1. So that means I can jump every 0.1 seconds. I can't jump in between. So now I'm going to keyframe this first pose here, this first one. So if I'm selected on projectile, I can click the key for the first one. Create. Now I'm going to jump over a frame, and I'm going to switch pictures here. Oops. So I'm selected on projectile. I'm going to drag this to the new picture here. So it looks like it's turned, and I'm going to keyframe that. Now if I hit this repeat right here and press play. Now, not perfect, but the thing looks like it spins. I wonder how many jokes are going to be made about that. That's funny. I should probably just change it just because of that. Nah. Alright, so we have our flying projectile. And I'm also going to add a particle effect onto this. Now, what a particle effect does is it allows you to add extra stuff to your projectiles and to all kinds of stuff. So how we can do that is we can select on projectile here, hit the plus sign, and look for particle. Particles 2D. I'm adding some particles 2D. Now nothing's happening right this second, but if we select on particles 2D and we come over to the right hand side and we look for process material, and we give it a process material because it doesn't have one yet. So just do new particle material. And right there you can see a little dripping line. That's our particles. Now, we want it to look like this thing is flying through the air. So my particles are going in the wrong direction. We want them to not be going south. We want them to be going to the west to make it look like it's flying. So if you will click on particle material here, you'll see a bunch of other stuff open up. Take this moment right now to close this bottom bar down here, animation. Click on that. It'll get rid of that bar. We're not using that anymore. But when you select on particle material, it opens up a bunch of stuff here. These are a bunch of things that you can adjust. So I am going to look for gravity, and if you'll notice, gravity is set to 0 and 98. If I change these numbers, I can change the direction that the particles are flying. So if I change it to negative 98, you'll notice the particles start dripping upwards. And if I add some X, it will start going in a direction that corresponds with these numbers. So I want it to go the other direction. So I'm going to do negative 50, and I'm going to do 0. There we go. So now I have some particles that are coming off of this projectile, and they're going to the west. Alright, I would like them to last a little bit longer because they're just kind of just barely popping out and they don't last very long. I would like them to go farther. So let's go here to time, and let's add some more time. I want them to last for 2 seconds. That's good. Now, if this was wind flying off, or like this thing was cutting through the air, that's what I'm going for here. You can grab and move this particle emission, and you can move it wherever you would like. I'm going to put the particles emitting from the front of my little projectile here, and now it kind of looks like it goes through it. I want it to look like it's cutting through the air through the whole thing here. So if we will, I'm going to close this time one, and I'm going to close this gravity one, because what will happen is like you get too many open and you won't remember where you were at. It's annoying. But anyway, so we're looking for emission shape. If we open that one up, you'll see that it's coming out of a point. All the particles are spawning from a single point. I would like them to spawn in a box shape. The box shape that's being spawned from right now is a 1x1 box. Z is like the layer where that can be at 0. That's fine. So let me show you guys that it's actually coming out of a box. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm actually going to turn off gravity, and I'm going to remember that. And now I'm going to make the box bigger. So let's do a 10x10 box, and I will make a bunch more of them. So right now it's emitting only 8, and you can kind of see the box shape, but if I make this number a lot larger, like say 800, you can see how big the box is. So there's the shape that is actually being emitted. They're spawning in that area right there, and if I make the area larger, let's say 15x15, the box will grow. So that's the spawn area that it can come out of. I don't need that many. I'll put it back on 8, and now hopefully you can understand. But there's other shapes too. You could also do a sphere with a certain radius, and you can see what that looks like. It's pretty cool. There's lots of effects. This particle thing is probably one of the most powerful things you can do. I haven't even messed around with directed points. I mean, there's just so many things. So I'm going to do box again. I'm going to turn my particles down back to 8. I'm going to put my gravity back at -50. And I'm going to continue. So the box shape I want to do, that actually, honestly doesn't look too bad. It's a little bit too tall, so let me lower that. Let's do 10 maybe. And I don't want it to be so wide, so let's just do 0. Okay, so now if you imagine the box, there's no width to the box, there's only height. And I'm going to do 8. Let's do 8. Okay, so now my particles are spawning, and they're kind of flying back to the left. That's good. Let's make a little bit more. I'll do 15 particles. You don't really want to add too many. And another cool feature, like you can see the particles there really small, and they don't look like they're going very quick. If you like made them longer, they would look like they're going quicker. So let's change the shape of what our particles actually look like. So if you scroll down, you can go to, I think it's transform, and you can change the size of your particle in the X direction. Let's do 2. So now they're like longer, and it looks like they're going a little faster. Let's do 3. Let's do 4. Let's do 8. There it is. 8. That's fine. Alright, now we don't need them to last so long. They're going too far. They don't need to go that far. So I'm going to close this transform node. It was under node 2D. Scroll up, and I don't need them to last that long. 1 second maybe. And there's a little bit too many of them, so I'll go to 9. There we go. And the last couple things, I'm going to deal with explosiveness. So explosiveness is how many of them spawn at a time. So this is them just coming in at like 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. If you play around with the explosiveness, you can make them kind of like spawn together and like they're all kind of spawning together there. 1 makes them all spawn simultaneously, which is probably not what we're looking for. I liked that 0.3 though, or that point like 3 something. And maybe I'd even add a little bit more. 18? I don't know. I could play with this all day. This is like one of the funnest things to mess around with. It really makes your stuff come to life. I want it to be more continuous, but I don't want it to be like crazy. Maybe I need to turn down my explosiveness just a little. See, I don't know. That looks pretty cool to me. Maybe there's just too many. Alright, I need to show you all about the color. I need to quit messing around with this. Okay, so now we have the particles flying through the air. I'm going to leave it like that. I'm sure there's 1,000 different ways to do it. Come down to color here, and we want to change a color. Now, right now, it's always white. I'm going to give it a different color, and I want the color to change over time. And that's going to be color ramp. You can just do a single color right there. We're going to do a color ramp. New gradient. Now that's black. Now, if you click gradient texture again, you have a couple other things that open up. You want to click on gradient, new gradient. So now you can see that this object, the particles are black, then they change to gray, and then to white. Click on gradient, and you can adjust the colors at whatever time. I want them to start out, I'm going to pick, like, okay, so this is the time frame. So that's starting black, getting to white, and it passes through gray. You can kind of see that color here. If I want to change the color at the beginning, I can click on this first one here, and then this side, this is where the color is actually determined. So I'm going to click this box, and then I want it to start out at like green. So I'm going to choose a green. I like green. Green's like my favorite color. So we have green, and then I want it to eventually get to a different color. So then I'll put another point here. I'm going to click like right in the middle, and I want it to go from this green to maybe a brighter green. Yeah, let's do brighter green. And then finally I want it to end on a teal-ish color. So what you see here is that it starts out a bright green, gets a little lighter, and then switches to a teal. And you can do that with all you can go through all the whole color spectrum. This is just what I'd like to do. Alright, so let's see what our projectile looks like when it's flying now. I'll click on the animation player and I'll push play. And there's our projectile flying through the air with some particles that come out of it. Not the best, but we have something. That's it. I think that's where I'm going to leave you guys with that. There are a lot of settings you can mess with in here. If you get lost, start over and go slow. Just take your time when you're messing around with these. There's so many different options. You can always watch the video again and just watch it slower so you can figure out exactly what you want to do or change. But like I said, there's a lot of different things you can do. Have a good day, guys.